Hello, all. Welcome to the Hyperdrive Hour. I'm Justice.
Hi,
Hi, Justice.
Hi,
We'll work.
Justice.
We'll work on the sync on that later. Hi, Donovan.
Hi, I'm Donovan.
Hi,
Hi,
Donovan.
Donovan.
The syncing is so bad.
Marin.
I think part of
I
the
don't think my
issue
mic is picking up my laughter here.
I think part of the issue is that Discord just has an inherent delay.
Well, yeah, it's an internet process, so inherently it's going to. Marin, you're next.
Howdy, I'm Marin.
Hi,
Hi,
Marin.
Marin.
Yeah.
All right, Sonata.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sonata.
Hi, Sonata.
Wait, that's not even your real name.
Correct.
Well, shit.
All right, Marin, you're hosting again. Good luck.
Yes, I am. I have chosen to redeem myself this episode. Hello and howdy, everybody, to the Hyperdrive Hour. I'm going to be your host and MC tonight, Marin. And we are talking about the Clone Wars. So, in our first episode of the podcast, we already talked about what our favorite arc of the Clone Wars was, but just so we can refresh everybody, just name your favorite arc of the Clone Wars. 3, 2, 1, go. Alphabetical order of justice.
Dude, first off,
Donovan, fuck. I'm used to you going
Maul.
first.
Just Maul. All of it Maul. Go.
I don't remember what I picked last time.
Nice. Well
Same.
done. Oh my god. To fill time, I'll talk.
Marin,
mine was Umbara.
waffle, so I can answer. Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite arc was Umbara, and Donovan very much enjoys the Maul arc. And I actually made Donovan for the first time watch the end of the
you
Clone
cannot
Wars.
bring this up. You cannot bring this up.
Why can I not bring this up?
No, I
Is
want to
it
hear
You're a
about it.
embarrassment?
and you didn't watch the end of the Clone Wars.
Shut your mouth.
I'm sorry. What?
I know. I had
your mouth.
the exact same reaction,
It's
Sonata.
embarrassing.
To amend your statement, Marin, it was not Clone Wars arc. It was arc in any TV show. Because I didn't pick a
arc
Clone
in
Wars
any
one.
TV show. My apologies.
And that's why I couldn't remember what it was. So it's your fault. I blame you.
So
Oh,
now we
yeah.
need Clone
It's
Wars
my
arcs.
fault. All my fault. Always all my
Pick one,
fault.
Justice.
Probably Umbara. Maybe Citadel. I like the Citadel. Umbara's fun.
Citadel's good. What about you, Mr. Sanaba?
Honestly, going through all the Clone Wars arcs in my head, I think the one I like the most would be the Mandalore arc.
Okay, good. You didn't say Mortis. I heard the M and I got very concerned. If you had said Mortis, I would have just disconnected.
Are we Mortis haters in the chat? I can get down with this.
Okay,
Mortis
let's go in order again. Mortis, yay, nay.
Fuck no.
Your point is invalid. You answered incorrectly. No, I'm kidding.
Nay.
Yeah, I think Donovan and I have talked about this before, but it's like in isolation, the arc isn't bad. Like it's well put together. I don't like it because it's just like weird. Like
to be there?
there's
No.
certain
Does it
things.
add anything to the story? Not really.
There's certain things about it that I like. Like I don't mind the idea of like some form of entity that's a higher tier force wielder than your kind of standard race, you know, because you have the Mortis gods and you have like Bendu and Rebels. Like they're fun. I just don't think that the way they're presented is necessary. I don't think we needed this arc, as Donovan said. I don't think it adds anything to the show. I don't think it subtracts anything from the show. I mean, Anakin doesn't even remember the entire arc, so it clearly doesn't matter that much.
It is because it does not. We do not learn anything new, We do not experience new facets of characters, and it does not change the story in any meaningful way. Therefore, it is just filler, in my opinion.
It does give Ahsoka her little owl, though.
It does, but the owl doesn't mean
It doesn't
much.
do shit.
Yeah,
it doesn't do anything.
it's just that the owl, the Morai owl, is just set decoration at this current moment.
Cool.
It's literally, hey guys, Ahsoka's here. That's all the owl is.
Ahsoka symbolism.
That being said, I think that Marin and I always go on about how, oh, Clone Wars with budget's so good. I feel like they could have. It was an interesting concept, but I think they would have been better served taking the budget from Mortis and putting it elsewhere.
Yeah. It's
however, Sonata never got a chance to chime in on this. So.
yeah, Sonata's
Sonata.
speech.
So
Mortis Nene.
it's okay. I cannot definitively say either because here's the thing. There are parts of Mortis that I think could have been really, really cool, and there are other parts that I think this shouldn't have been done. So it's a pretty soft nay for me, if only because, as has been previously established, in the end, nothing that really happened in Mortis mattered.
What happens in Mortis stays in Mortis, and that's a problem.
Yeah, it really is. And I know what Mortis is, and it's just part of it is just fan service. I think is what it boils down to. The other issue just seems to be that they wanted to have a scenario where Anakin saw what his future was going to be, but they didn't want to commit to it. They just backed out on what could have been an interesting angle into his character of having to because I recall Yoda establishing several times the future is always in motion. It's shifting, it's changing. It would have been interesting to see Anakin have to ask himself some important questions and just kind of go through the journey of this can't really be me, because they did it in the episodes, yeah, but it felt contrived and rushed, in my opinion.
Well, I think here's the thing. They already tackle that with Anakin. That's his entire driving force in the prequels. Is he beats himself up over potentially seeing the future. In one case, he does see the future in an absolute fashion. He sees his mom die. There's nothing he can do about that. In the other, he sees the future, tries to stop it, and causes the future. Padme dies. Doing it again through the Clone Wars and adding that, I don't think adds anything to the story. It almost just makes it more convoluted and I don't know, makes Anakin seem like just even greater of a dumbass if he can't recognize what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, I do have to give this is a series of words designed to piss off Sonata.
Oh no.
Now, I can hand it to Mortis for setting up to help the possible canon introduction of a little character named the Mother, or Abeloth.
Abeloth, yeah. I was gonna make a joke about Abeloth.
Oh, you fucking dickhead.
And he disrupts the fucking overlay.
No!
Victory! Victory!
I think we're legally required to keep that in.
I'm not pulling anything out.
Oh my god. Sonata, are you ready to be a big boy and talk about it and use your words?
I think I'm just going to mute and deafen myself until this heresy is finished being discussed.
Oh my god.
Victory.
Yeah, Abeloth is only a 15-year-old Star Wars character. Like in real life. They're early 2000s books. Or I
Yeah.
guess mid 2000s books. Like, they certainly were mid from what I can gather.
Mid at best.
I don't know. My opinions on Mortis, I'm very much like Sonata. I'm in the middle. There are things that I could leave, things that I could take. I do agree that Anakin seeing his future is kind of dumb. It doesn't really do anything. The one thing that I do find interesting, though, is the death of the sister, and just thinking about the death of, quote, the embodiment of the light side of the Force within that point in the galaxy, because that's what mid Clone Wars.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think about the implications of that throughout the Force going forward.
Yeah, but they all die.
Counterpoint: the sister's the owl.
They also all die.
They do.
All of the entities die, do they not?
Oh
I don't
yeah.
remember.
Yeah, because the
Nice.
father dies. The father dies to res Ahsoka, and then they have to kill the son so that he
Yeah.
doesn't escape.
Also, Marin, cool answer, but it's invalid because you didn't do it in the proper format.
Oh, get ratioed.
Golly, gosh, darn it. So I suppose my answer is nay on Mortis. Like there are some, like I said, there are some really cool aspects. I like the idea of these extremely powerful Force entities, i.e., Bendu or whatever, like Justice mentioned. And I suppose, just because it slipped my mind, but it makes even more sense now, the death of all of them, with the greater implications of the Force throughout the galaxy at that time, because that's when everything, I mean, it had been off kilter for a little bit, but that's when everything kind of just like really went off the rails, I'd like to think, in terms of the quote-unquote balance in the Force. Any final words on Mortis?
Resources should have been expended somewhere else.
Yeah. Mid-arc, do better next time. What about the arc before that, which is the Night Sister arc, and that is the... Let me double check. It's Asajj Ventress going back to Dathomir and getting Savage Opress to exist. What are our thoughts on Savage Opress as a character as a whole?
How did they get away with giving him that name?
Savage Opress.
How did they give him the name Savage Oppress and get away with it?
And how did Mr. Krabs voice him?
No, Mr. Krabs voicing him is fine.
That's the part that I can like. It always
Now I've just
boggles my noggin.
Now I've just got Mr. Krabs' money coming out with Savage's voice in my head.
Savage Opress going up on that first Jedi temple where he's absolutely knocking heads together. Just why'd you put paint on me first, Noller?
I'm sorry, now I'm just imagining this scene where Savage and Maul are raiding that one ship. And
oh my god.
Then when Savage opens the little safe full of credits, instead of him saying, "Look, brother, it's just, I like money."
Exactly. But it's still in his voice.
What do we think of the Mr. Krabs Dathomirian? Dathomirian Zabrak, I should specify. People will give him.
In the words of Captain Barbosa, the rule of two is not a law, it's more just guidelines. And that's my take, is that they do love breaking the rule of two with creating more Sith assassins. I said Sith assassins.
Well, he was an assassin, not a Sith apprentice.
Yeah, so it's
only
okay.
One master, only one apprentice, but it doesn't say anything about assassins.
My own thoughts are, I enjoyed getting to see a bit of the Night Brother culture in that arc, and getting to see just what kind of lives they live on that planet. It's after the transformation that I feel like Savage loses a good chunk of the personality traits in him that I found interesting, and he just kind of became, for lack of a better term, a brainless brute.
Well,
That's the point.
That's yeah. I've got to point out, because I like the Night Sister arc and anything to do with the Night Sisters, because they are a mildly dark aligned, force using group that is not on the Jedi Sith axis. So the seeing the force used in ways that are very non-traditional for either sect is really interesting. And I feel like Savage going from this cunning fighter that can't rely on brute force because he just isn't that strong, being corrupted by the dark side and being turned into this Hulk that can only rely on brute force because that's all he can do anymore, is really compelling. Downfall of the protagonist and all that. We all know, we've discussed already that that's kind of my thing. So he's not necessarily the most compelling character, but what he represents is compelling to me. Not to mention,
Yeah.
he goes on to be just another tool to Maul, despite, being his brother. Just showing off further and further, dark side corruptive, yada yada.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'd say there's some
Can I-
nuance to Maul and Savage. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, it's okay.
like it's not just he's not just a tool. He's like a tool that you mildly care about to Maul. Like there's definitely
Like your favorite hammer.
Yeah. You like it, you cherish it. But at the end of the day, it's a hammer. But that's an arc that technically isn't here yet, so I'll let Marin speak now.
My opinions on Savage Press as a whole. I do like the fact that as he was corrupted by the dark side of the Force, he kind of just became this brainless brute in service to his brother. But if nothing else, Savage Press serves the purpose of highlighting just how terrible of a person Maul is. Because everything that Maul does to Savage is something, presumably, that he learned how to do from Palpatine. And he is all the time, Maul all the time is talking about how much he hates Palpatine and how much he wants to either get rid of him, become his apprentice again, or just fuck off into the middle of nowhere. But he is exactly like him in a lot of ways. And I think that's a very interesting thing to look at it from that perspective, just in terms of how Savage relates to the characters around him.
But he dies.
Yeah, then he dies. Rip Bozo on Mandalore. Little goofy goober.
Savage is a mirror and chaos is a ladder. Wait, wrong franchise, sorry.
We already promised we weren't going to talk about Game of
No, but we will talk about Throne of Games.
No.
Do we just need to do an episode someday that's just a non-Star Wars media episode so we can just get it all out?
I feel like we should actually have some episodes up before we do that. Or more than just 3.
Dude, we've got the next 2 months planned out. We're fine.
It's true.
I mean, you're not wrong.
All right, I'm gonna steal that little segue of talking about Savage dying on Mandalore. What do we think of the Mandalorians introduced within the Clone Wars, especially the pacifist Mandalorians?
I have a take here that is somewhat unpopular.
Oh?
To me, it makes sense that after literally, as far as we're aware, centuries of, as I believe is to be implied, centuries of war that have torn a planet apart, a faction coming up that has pacifistic beliefs is not unbelievable. However, what is unbelievable to me is that they would be the ones in power.
It is mentioned at some point there was a civil war.
There's
that
one
I
of those
think-
like every 5 years on that planet.
Yeah, there's
though.
one of those every like 4 minutes on Mandalore. But specifically, I think there was a civil war to put the pacifist, for lack of a better term, regime. I can't think of another word for it right now. To put Satine in power.
That doesn't sound
Which
very
seems really
pacifistic.
hypocritical. Yeah, that
Yeah.
seems really
It
hypocritical.
seems incredibly hypocritical. And we even see that the people, some of the Satine never dons true Mandalorian armor, but the governor, I can't remember his name.
Olmec.
Olmec. Senator Olmec, I think. My bad. He actually does have Mandalorian armor, and it looks really cool, and I'm mad that he has that cool of Mandalorian armor. But that implies that he would have had to probably use it at some point, or maybe it was ceremonial, but we don't know that much about what was going on, other than some stuff mentioned by Bo-Katan, where like she did a few things that were just for, you know, the traditionalists.
I feel like
We're talking about Clone Wars.
Satine probably had some armor somewhere. If Bo-Katan had armor, because segueing again to the Mandalorian for a tiny moment, you know, she mentions all of the ritualistic things that she did. So if she had the armor, because part of the creed is the helmet, I wouldn't be
Then there were
surprised.
probably-
Satine might have thrown it out, but she probably had the armor at some point.
Yeah, at some point. Maybe like during the Civil War, she would have donned the armor.
It's
but,
worth a quick look on Wikipedia says that Clan Kryze was apparently in power and before the Civil War. So the Civil War was caused by Satine taking over from Satine and Bo-Katan's parents.
Oh,
Ah,
So they were the ruling government and won the Civil War.
I see. But the pacifist stayed in power.
Yes.
But yeah, Go ahead, sorry. Cut somebody off.
you
I
did
was
not.
just saying yes. I was agreeing.
But yeah, Sonata, I'm actually in agreement. I do believe that it is a valid, or it is a logical conclusion to reach that there would in fact be a pacifist sect of Mandalorians that could probably be pretty large. And well, politicians are gonna politic and propaganda is gonna propaganda. So to me, it's not necessarily out of the question that not only a movement could grow this large within Mandalorian culture, but that it could actually have a mainstay within the government. I feel like it probably took a while to get to the point where they are currently, especially since the Greases were already in power. But I feel like probably there have been like people on Mandalorian governmental councils and such that have been like, hey, let's do peace things, and then slowly over time that kind of took over.
Yeah, I gotta wonder, why did it take them 20,000 years to finally decide that, hey, maybe peace isn't a bad thing? This is hybridizing both continuities a bit,
A little bit, yeah.
of course, but even in canon, there are plenty of mentions of wars thousands of years ago, like their
Yeah,
war
I mean-
against the Jedi. Why did it take them so long to finally try it once? Because it made it pretty clear that, like, yeah, they don't do this. Pacifism, no, we don't do this here.
Not in my country. Yeah, it is odd to think that like it's taken that long, but also, I mean, traditionalists are gonna traditional and Mandalorians for a long, long time were nothing if not traditionalists. So theoretically, because we really don't know that much about Mandalorians before the Clone Wars. We know that at some point Tar Vizsla existed, at some point there was a war.
If I had to hazard my own guess, it's that the pacifism came out of desperation. It came out of the acknowledgement of, if we don't stop doing this, we're going to wipe ourselves out.
Are we able to delve into the legend segment to respond to that a little bit? Because like,
Go for it.
they've been in a lot worse places than that.
Yeah.
Malachor 5 says hi.
Yeah, I feel like the destruction of an
Malachor
entire
5
fucking
says
planet.
hi. The scattered attempts to reunify under A1 Mandalore the Preserver? Was that his title?
Yes, he's Preserver.
Good old Candorus Ordo. That also went very badly. You can blame Kreia for that. The Mandalorians have been in some far worse places. They were not. They might have been desperate, but even they would know that they were not actually in danger there. Well, I mean, the people were in danger, but the culture wasn't.
It also makes me wonder how their hierarchy works, especially because at the time that the Clone Wars was being developed, right, Legends was still largely an established continuity that a lot of people referred to, and that like there were certain things done within the Clone Wars to kind of reference a lot of the other works. It makes me wonder when they intended the Kreeses to take power, and when or if this was truly just another case of all that business with Jango Fett and the Vizslas and the one Civil War. We don't care about that because that's totally possible. I mean, those Karen Travis's position after the Republic Commando novels was that the Clone Wars just gave the rest of the EU a big middle finger, which it did in a lot of ways. But like, Dave Filoni cares and doesn't care about it. It's really weird. So it's like, because Jango Fett was Mandalore in Legends. Like he was the ruler of the planet. And then I guess we got a pacifist one now.
Since I haven't gotten a chance to say it yet, my opinion on the new Mandalorians is they make sense logically that there would be pushback like that. I feel like a faction of pacifists winning a civil war doesn't quite feel right. Even with Jedi interference, because that's how Kenobi and Satine met. So I mean, that doesn't quite feel right. That being said, like I said, it does still make sense. What I don't like about it, however, is that it seems to be used, albeit somewhat indirectly in the Clone Wars, as a critique of pacifism. Because, sure, yeah, the war hasn't come to Mandalore, but there's all this crime, all this corruption, because the government isn't doing what needs to be done. And that feels... It could just be coincidence that they happen to put all the crime stuff on Mandalore, but when like 90% of the crime stuff is on Mandalore, which just happens to be a pacifist government, that can't help but feel like a critique of it.
In some of the early, like the season 2 stuff where you're dealing with like Pre Vizsla or even Olmec's betrayal, though, it's kind of like like I'd almost say it's the other way. It's a critique of like the martial traditionalism, because that's who's doing it. And there's only so much you can do about corrupt officials. If we were better at it, um, any country inherently has corrupt officials. So it's like I don't think that it's necessarily a dig at them. It might be a bit coincidental because hey, look, it's Mandalore. We want to see Mandalore, and then it's well, if you want to see Mandalore, well, we got to do all these other things to.
I mean,
And
you're not wrong, and like it's obviously like, in my opinion, it is the entirety of like because I was just focusing on the pacifist government because that's what the topic
Mhm.
was.
yeah,
It's definitely a critique of both. If there's a critique there, it's a critique of both.
I'd say I agree then.
But
Yeah.
it could also just be coincidence because art doesn't always have meaning aside from hey, this is art. However, comma,
Sometimes Clone War is gonna Clone War.
exactly. Thank you. The clone simp gets it.
I feel
Yeah.
like that's kind of my opinion about Mandalore's state in the Clone Wars. Is that sometimes I just want Clone War to Clone War, and I want to see Mandalorians shoot things. Like, I feel like-
Mandalorians do Mandalorian things, and we got
Oh.
kind of jiffed.
When are we gonna get to see the Mandalorians do Mandalorian things? Like can we get some of that in the Clone Wars, especially towards the end, and like season 7 and season 5? I want to see them. I want to see them as one cohesive unit, just absolutely fucking dumping on people. And I feel like the Clone Wars would have been a fun time to do that, no matter what side they took. Or you even split them up and have a far more interesting schism between those that want to outright support the Separatists and those that don't. Have them both be cool guys in armor, and not one of them being the loser pacifists. And the loser pacifists have to be the ones that I vote for because they're the good guys. I
think
also-
personally
Yeah,
for
go ahead.
that kind of wanting to see Mandalorians do Mandalorian things, they really should have done a show of that Civil War.
Yeah.
I wish. I'm
Like,
hoping that.
Any type of visual media at all of that Civil War. Oh, that'd be so good.
Give me a Tales of the Jedi episode, and it's Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and Satine.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
But anyways,
with them making season 2, that's a possibility.
I'm really hoping.
No, we're gonna get another 3 episodes about Ahsoka, and
Swear to
then
God.
some
Would they
other,
fuck up her book even more.
and then
Actually,
Coleman
5
Trebor or
episodes.
something.
Oppo Rensis.
It's actually gonna be that poof guy whose first name I can't remember.
I wouldn't even care if we got Oppo Rancisis or Yariel Poof content. Ahsoka's getting her own damn show. Stop sticking her in everything else.
But she needs a spin-off.
She's got her own spin-off, goddammit. That's not even gonna
This
be
is her
hers.
spin-off.
Clone Wars was her show.
No, the show called Ahsoka is her show.
It's a spin-off.
No, it's a Rebels spin-off.
Anyways, let's talk about Clone Wars.
No.
No.
As we continue to talk about Clone Wars, let's talk about Clone Wars pre-Ahsoka. Let's talk about the 2D animated 03 Clone Wars.
No, that's
everybody
Star
here
Wars
watch it?
Clone Wars. That's not Star
Star
Wars The
Wars.
Clone Wars.
Star
I showed
Wars
up for
Clone
The
Wars.
Clone Wars. Sorry. I'm just-
What do we think of the micro series?
So, I have fond memories of watching the micro series on Cartoon Network back in the day. And in recent years, looking back on it, a lot of it holds up well enough that outside of a handful of scenes, I can see some things some of the events that are depicted in that show remain in canon.
Fordo is still canon in my heart.
Correct. Bordeaux is in fact still canon.
God, I love Fordo.
Um,
Alright. Keep going. Keep talking.
I just want to say my favorite part of Clone Wars is just Mace Windu fisting a Vulture droid into flying for him, and I will not elaborate.
Please change your verbiage! I am begging you.
He fisted someone?
He inserted his fist
In
into the
public?
Vulture droid. That is fisting by definition.
In public?
Of course.
That's kinky.
Anything goes on the battlefield.
That, my friends, is someone's kink.
Oh,
Battlefield
God.
fisting.
So, guys, I love the 03 Clone Wars, right?
You
No.
love the show that's got battlefield fist? No, stop. Please do. I want to die. I'm too lazy to do it myself.
No, I really love... Whoa. Guys, Clone Simp is gonna say something that's so crazy. I love the clones in this show.
Boo! Get new
Cody?
content!
Cody makes an appearance. He tells Obi-Wan that the siege should last like only a few more months. It's really cute, and Obi-Wan pouts. And then Fordo, Captain Fordo, my man, my beloved. I love him. And really just that entire what would have been like an episode, but now it's just condensed into the micro series. It's them like in basically just wrecking house through a city. A bunch of ARC troopers going in, and kicking ass, and like taking back the city. They take out like a big old tank or like a big old anti-aircraft gun at the top of a building. I just really love seeing how quick and good at their jobs the clones are. Just seeing my favorite thing about Star Wars is just seeing the clones in their element. Seeing clones getting to clone is cool, and I very much enjoy the 2D micro series for what it does for that. I could give or take the anything going on with Shaak Ti and like protecting the Chancellor. Although it is we're not exactly certain as to how. Do we know how the Chancellor got kidnapped? Within canon?
All we know is that Grievous took him. Like, Grievous went to the surface and took him. And that at some point, Grievous and Shaak Ti probably clashed. And they mentioned that she went MIA in the Clone Wars. But obviously she didn't die. Because she doesn't die till the Siege of the Jedi Temple.
Yeah, but that's really the only thing of that we see, which you take or leave it. And then the stuff with Anakin is okay. We do get the introduction of Asajj Ventress though, and her being cool and her getting recruited by Dooku and Palpatine. I liked that scene. Yeah, I am an enjoyer of the 03 Clone Wars. The only arc that I don't necessarily like is Anakin's trial. On the ice planet, number 642. Other than that, I really do enjoy 03 Clone Wars. Justice, you talk next, and then Donovan.
Oh.
Get
Save the worst for last, I see.
Yeah. It's alright. I feel like one of my biggest hang-ups about it is not the show itself, but the way people treat the show. Like people don't understand that there's some exaggeration to Mace Windu literally wading through thousands of super battle droids and just punching them all out. It's a cartoon. It's exaggerated a little. Because if you would have watched that happen in any of the movies or the, even like the '08 Clone Wars, that would have just been incredibly unbelievable. And I,
So much screaming on the internet.
and it's like, also, who the fuck was like, yeah, let me just mount up on my fucking speeder bike with a lance?
Hey, that motherfucker was cool.
He was, and then he died.
Yeah, he did that.
So
But
you
it
have to
was
wonder if
cool.
that's connected.
Sometimes you just gotta do it for the bit.
No, it's interesting, and a lot of it there's not too much that you can't say doesn't fit into the current Star Wars continuity. I'd say so. It's like if you want to headcanon some of the cool parts, like go for it. Howdy Obi-Wan, he's canon in my heart.
Howdy Obi-Wan has always been canon. That has never not been canon.
It wasn't canon when it didn't exist yet.
They've got you there.
But my general opinion on it is, it's pretty good. The animation's pretty good. The story is solid. It's been a pretty long time since I've seen it, mostly because I keep forgetting it exists. By no slight to the media itself, it's just the '08 Clone Wars is just bigger. That being said, I kind of see it. I can see most of it not just being canon, but like in universe, just like because like the exaggerated scene of Windu taking on all those super battle droids, that could very easily be in universe Republic recruitment propaganda, or like support the war effort, buy war bonds, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen that, and then I've seen people argue the other way, that the 03 Clone Wars is the real Clone Wars, and 08 is
is the propaganda?
Because of the way the clones are treated in the respective shows. Because 03 Clone Wars was operating without the existence of inhibitor chips, and so it kind of made the clones robotic, quiet, so very, very quick with their jobs, and not very personable, while 08 Clone Wars specifically made the clones relatable and made them individualistic. So yeah, it's interesting to see people argue that either way.
I share a similar view with Donovan in that scenes from the 03 Clone Wars feel too exaggerated. Like, to me, it seems as though the way I've always seen it is that even when it was when it was first released, there were scenes of that show that were meant to accurately represent what's going on in universe, and then there were scenes that were meant to exaggerate what happened, and it was partially like up to interpretation which scenes those were. Because I still firmly believe, much like Donovan, that the whole Mace Windu punching out thousands of B2s on Dantooine was absolutely Republic propaganda. There's no way in hell it wasn't.
I mean, if anybody could punch him out, it's the guy who has the Shatterpoint ability. That's reasonable, and I guarantee you, Window was down there just wading through him, punching him. But
Window?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I couldn't let you slide on that one, brother. I'm gonna shut up
Him
now.
moving through them all, and the number of them, and you know how tightly packed it is and everything, all of that is exaggerated to some extent. And you can't tell me it's not. I just, especially if I remember the scene correctly, he lets out a massive force wave at one point.
Yeah. And he crushes a bunch of that blast radius.
My favorite part of that whole scene is just him disassembling one droid. and using it to destroy others.
I think my personal favorite is at the very end whenever Windu just goes up to this like little kid at the top of the hill and the kid just like in awe gives him the little canteen. He's like, he just nods.
I mean, it might very well just be that little kid's perspective of the battle.
Yeah, that's
That's
always
probably
what
the.
kind of my perspective was on it.
Oh, I forgot the little kid existed.
There were actually only like 10 super battle droids.
Yeah.
It's still impressive,
Oh yeah,
but it's not the thousands that.
that Windu took down. I suppose we can. I'm gonna use this as another segue. We're segueing from that to Windu almost getting killed by someone who is in the Clone Wars. That being young Boba Fett. What do we think of Boba Fett's character arc within the Clone Wars?
How did he blow his dad's helmet up and still have his dad's helmet? That's my thoughts.
Beskar.
Yeah, but how'd he blow it up?
Or it was just a fake.
It could have just been a fake.
I watched that arc. I was just like, because the helmet, they pick up only a part of the helmet. Later in the episode, I think we see it at one point in multiple pieces. It's like, but it's also got the dent in the top, and it's like, why are you going through such effort at that point? Like I'm pretty sure there's a little notch in the helmet. I'd have to rewatch the episode because it's been a hot minute. I'm pretty sure there's, like, they try to make it look like Boba Fett's helmet pre-paint, you know, with like the Django paint style still. It's just like,
Yeah.
Because Mace Windu is so convinced that it's Jango Fett's helmet. Which, I mean, yeah, how many Mandalorians have you seen, I guess? But I just always think it's funny to pose that question of how did he blow up his dad's helmet, but then also use his dad's helmet for another 30 years?
True. Boba is definitely like that archetypical angsty kid wants revenge. He's the Lancer to the shonen protagonist, where there is no shonen protagonist. It is interesting to see the dichotomy of where he started and then where he ends up. But this is very much him learning that you really can't let things get personal in the line of work he ends up taking.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just him learning that the hard way for several seasons.
Several seasons.
I think they should have made Boba Fett older. And this is more on George Lucas than it is Dave Filoni and the Clone Wars team. But I feel like making Boba slightly older in the Clone Wars would have been way more interesting.
Make him a teenager instead of like a 6-year-old.
Somebody who's capable of donning the armor, because that's one thing that they were gonna do in Revenge of the Sith, is that they discussed the idea of having Boba Fett kill Windu on the streets of Coruscant, but they were like, ultimately this still makes sense because Boba Fett's like what? He's like 13?
About 13 at the end of the Clone Wars, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for being such a young guy, he's certainly got some ingenuity about him. I always feel like the show forgets how old he is, too. Thinking about it, like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he is wearing the armor in that unfinished Clone Wars arc, where he beats Cad Bane.
Right.
And I know
He's
that's
like
not...
How does he do that at 13?
Well, to be fair, he does get shot in the head.
Yeah, he does.
He would have lost that gunfight if he wasn't wearing the armor. But the fact that he fits in the armor, like,
I guess it can shrink. It's like, I mean, Beskar is Star Wars' equivalent of like enchanted armor, right? And like D&D 5th edition, magic items shrink or grow to match their bearer, right? So
Yeah.
That's probably more.
I guess it just shrinks to fit him.
Well,
Beskar is magic cling
Sure.
wrap.
sure.
Oh my god.
I was gonna make the case that like he changed like his undersuit or whatever, because that's what he'd have to change the most. But then I remember how big Django's chest plate is. And it takes up like the entirety of his chest. So it's like,
Well, yeah, because it's a usable chest plate.
yeah. Well, think about like Sabine's armor and Rebels. You could probably fit a like 13-year-old into that if you cut down like Sabine's undersuit. And it'd still offer pretty viable protection because it's only like it's a very odd shape for Mandalorian armor. But no, I don't know. I guess there's a reason that arc never happened. Although Book of Boba Fett implies that arc happened.
Yeah.
But no,
I mean,
I
it
think
probably happened just at a different time when it made a bit more sense.
I think
That's the explanation that I'm sticking to.
Yeah, I was just saying because fucking Jango Fett is a 13-year-old wearing the armor and killing Cad Bane. Well, I guess it's not killing anymore. No, it would have been at that time. Because in Bad Batch, he's got the metal plate on his head from where Boba shot him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
I guess I'm just wrong. Cool.
I get-
Love it.
I guess they just picked a good genetic
Sorry,
template.
that was mean.
No,
It's
correct.
Yeah, truth hurts. That's my takeaway with Boba Fett in this show. Is damn, that 9-year-old's good at killing.
Yeah.
In the Clone Wars, he would have started the Clone Wars at 10 years old and ended them at 13.
He would have.
Yeah.
The Clone Wars is 4 years long.
Then 14. Fuck. Sorry.
Oh.
Please don't fuck in the voice call.
Mhm.
Giving birth is also banned.
If he's naturally developed, he might be 13.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Cause
Womb time. he because they speed develop the clones, and that applies to their embryonic state as well. This is like a really dumb topic to get into, but it's topical for the Clone Wars, I guess. He's a clone. He went to war with Mace Windu. Clone Wars.
He was vaguely involved. Speaking of dumb things in the Clone Wars, what is y'all's least favorite Clone Wars arc?
Jar Jar Binks. Just any of them.
Any episode with Jar Jar.
Yeah.
Mortis is pretty bad. But I think I gotta go with Jar Jar gets laid.
I'm gonna have to side with Donovan on this one.
Yo, I'm right.
Great arc. There are a few arcs that I really don't like. One of them being Jar Jar gets laid. But season 5 has two absolute shitters, in my opinion, and that is the Anakin commits terrorism arc and
Which
the
one?
droid arc.
He does terrorism like all the time. Which one are we talking about?
The ones where specifically it's stated within canon where Obi-Wan was like, "But Anakin, that's terrorism." It is the Onderon arc with Lux Bonteri and Saw Gerrera.
Grossa Sarah.
I actually hate that arc. I really
Can
do
we
not like it.
can we remove Marin from the podcast? Is that doable? Can we do that mid-episode?
I don't particularly enjoy that arc either.
Hey Sonata, can we remove Donovan and Marin from the podcast?
Yes.
Why do you like this arc?
A.
Because it's
Onderon.
He's an Onderon simp.
B. Saugerer is a cool guy. C, Lux Bonterry's a cool guy. D,
Okay, I
Captain Rex
Individually,
is
yes,
a cool
these
guy.
things are so cool. Whenever you shove them together with a stupid love triangle, that's whenever I want to shoot my own brains out. God, I
What am I
really
up
do
to?
not like that aspect.
anyway,
Maybe
Justice, you
saying-
said D, but I didn't get to hear it over Marin.
Captain Rex is a cool guy. You throw them all in a blender. Guerrilla warfare. You see the formation of. I think at that point it's safe to call them like the earliest rebel cell.
Yeah, the proto rebels.
And it is. It's not awful. Also,
I'm not saying I never said it was awful. It's just like one of my least favorite arcs, just because of the character interactions that happen. Seem like they are just too immature for what these characters are attempting to do at the moment.
man, how dare the 15-year-old Jedi Padawan be immature?
No, it's just like these people are literally committing acts of terrorism, and it's just that I don't know what it is about those episodes specifically. They're just not my thing.
I want to
I'm
ship.
not saying that they're bad episodes. It's just not my thing.
I want to ship
that type
Marin
of
off
character arc is not.
to a real like guerrilla movement and see if all the like 15-year-olds within that actually fall into love triangles or not.
Oh my god.
Because I feel like that's how it would be, though, is you have these people doing mature things, but they're incredibly immature simply by age. Because Lux Bonteri is about the same age as
He's about the
Ahsoka,
same
we're
age
led
as
to
Ahsoka,
believe.
maybe a year or two older.
So it's like, well, it makes sense.
I think it's just because love triangles are just like my least favorite trope ever. I hate.
I would say that the love triangle, to be fair, probably isn't the strongest part of that arc, but
Yeah, there are some arcs in Clone Wars that I really don't like, but I can continue my list of arcs that I don't like. Somebody else. General consensus is Jar Jar gets laid arc is the shitters.
yeah.
That's the shitter.
Yep.
It is the shitter arc.
Yeah.
Because that's like 2.5 votes for it, because
Yeah, I'm just anything Jar Jar. Jar Jar Binks shows up in. It's like any episode he shows up in besides the Battle of Mon Cala arc and the like episode that kind of pertains to it where they capture General Grievous. Outside of that, I think every episode that has Jar Jar in it just sucks.
my issue is when Jar Jar is the main character. Because there
Yeah.
not enough to him to be a main character.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there.
I am also in agreement there.
What do we think about the Rafa and Trace, the Martez sisters, that arc in season 7 of the Clone Wars?
Meh.
I hated that arc.
Overhated, but I understand.
I really don't like it. I guess
You-
it's just because
You can
I
tell
really
that they're.
don't.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm still coming up to the fruition of my thought. The Martez sisters are just. You know how sometimes you can tell siblings aren't being written by a person with siblings? The Martez sisters are what happened whenever you write siblings and you aren't a sibling yourself. I don't think that their interactions with one another are realistic at all. I think Savaja Press and Maul are a better representation of siblings.
You can
Oh.
tell that they're each half a character.
Mm-hmm.
And if you merged them together, you get an actual character, which was what the original plan was. He's gonna be a dude.
So
Um,
I'm gonna keep it $1.50. I've only ever watched that arc once.
Same here, but I hated it so much I refused to watch it again.
Technically, no, that's not true, Marin.
haha.
You watched half of it with me before we decided to skip it.
Yeah, that is true.
So you watched 1.5.
No, because I was like, you know what? We can give it a. Actually, it's a 3-episode arc, and we watched the first
Okay,
episode of it. I think.
a third.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know. It's been a while. It left a bad taste in my mouth, but maybe we can try it again to see if like it's worth watching. It was not worth watching. It's a 4-episode arc.
That's what I was gonna say.
What?
Episode.
I thought it was a 4-episode
Four.
arc, and I was gonna check, but
4 episodes. Oh my god. 4 episodes of half of a
That
character.
Was 4?
mm,
That was
It's-
4.
It's pretty garbed.
God.
Not
I didn't
not
hate him in
good.
Bad Batch, but that's not the show we're talking about.
Yeah,
In Bad Batch, they didn't need to be characters,
yeah.
but
In
Yeah,
Bad Batch,
yeah.
they didn't have enough screen time for it to matter whether they were half a character or a full character.
There's a funny Echo joke, so it's
There
alright.
is a funny Echo joke, and it's really cute. I like that joke. But yeah, that arc and the droid arc from season 5. Season 5 has some really good ones and some really not so good
it's
ones.
got bangers, and then it's got the droid arc.
I forgot the droid arc existed, and I'd like to forget it existed again.
The only good episode is Missing in Action, and that's because it has Gregor in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
Gregor's
want to.
fucking juiced.
Simp,
I want to forget that arc ever existed.
Why?
including
What do you
Gregor.
have against Gregor? He is the first canon introduction of Commandos.
Incorrect.
Wait,
The Savage
when
arc
did-
is
the Savage arc, yeah, because isn't that
Delta Squad.
fucking Delta Squad? Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry, my bad. Well, it's our first clone commando that actually talks at all.
That's true.
And I mean, actually, this is the Clone Wars super episode. Y'all know what's in the Clone Wars? Republic
Dead people.
Commando. That too.
I haven't played that game in too long to really comment much on it.
And
I
you
started
haven't
it.
finished it. You don't get to comment on it, Marin.
Yeah, I got save locked. I have to restart the level.
Imagine being so bad at video games you get save locked.
Shut up.
Kinda cringe.
Yeah, but reading the Republic Commando books is actually next on my docket after I finish trudging through Thrawn Treason. Yeah, but what do we think of clone commandos as a concept as a whole? These clones that are genetically, they are just better. They have been trained more intensively. They're clones 2.0. What are our thoughts on clone commandos?
Makes sense for the Republic to have special forces.
Mhm.
I kind of wish that we got. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the entire Republic military being consisted of virtually nothing but clones. Not the topic at hand, but just like, I would have liked it if both, I don't know, maybe Legends got more into it. But in canon, I can't think of many examples where there were soldiers besides the clones, with the exception of the whole Onderon thing.
Well,
They do
a
it
good
all the
example of
time.
That is our good friend Rom Koda,
Mhm.
who we
Is he
know
canon?
from. He's
Mm.
not.
Rom Koda's canon in name.
He's canon in name because of Kenobi, right?
Mm-hmm. He's on the
Yes.
wall.
But in Legends, he insisted that he not fight alongside any clones.
Yeah, he didn't trust any of them.
Yep.
It's one of the
Uh,
biggest misses of the Clone Wars that they don't go into it. Because there's another example, and it's in the Legends novel Shatterpoint, when Mace Windu returns to his home planet that's embroiled in a civil war far longer than the Clone Wars have been going on, but the Republic supports a side, and the Separatists support a side, and it's being completely fought by people actually on the planet. And it's fucking awful. the Clone Wars was fought, especially in Legends, by far more than just clones and droids. It's just, you don't touch on that because it's easier to just say that the Clone Wars were fought by the clones and droids. For a kid's show and, you know, a 2-hour movie, that being Revenge of the Sith, it's a lot easier to just boil it down that way. For instance, you look at like the Admiralty of the Grand Army of the Republic, or the Navy, whatever the fuck you want to call them.
Yeah,
I don't know
they're
how
all, they're all enlisted men. They're all
Yeah.
not clones.
You have instances of like Garm Beliblis and Legends. He fought during the Clone Wars. The entire Corellian security force ended up basically fighting in the Clone Wars. Even though, even though he went through all the effort to not be in the Clone Wars, he still ended up being in the Clone Wars.
But the contemplative meditation didn't help?
I don't think that's quite what it's called, but yeah. Well,
Isn't that
you
what it's called? That's what it's supposed to translate into, I think.
maybe. Well, you figure when you are the senator for the biggest, one of the biggest shipyards in the galaxy, you know, you're probably going to be a viable military target no matter what. So I guarantee, CEC, despite the fact that they're on a neutral planet, they're still chunking stuff out for the war. You'd be a fool not to. But no, that's something that I almost wish the Clone Wars would have touched on more than the Onderon arc, is dropping people off to go fight in other things. Or even getting a mixture of like clones and local militias, or proper Republic fleets and just planetary defense fleets. Where did we start this topic from? How did we get here?
We're supposed to be talking about clone commandos.
It was Sonata who derailed us. That's right.
No, but this is actually a valid derailment. That's what I really liked about the Water Wars arc, is that it was like local militia and clones, and they brought in the Gungans as well. They brought in Gungan fighters. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, like there are plenty of good battles that are good cases of like, oh yeah, the clones. I think Umbar is another good example, although it kind of gets overshadowed by PvP. Is that
it's all Umbarans on the other side.
Yeah, they're
droids.
And it's like
droids.
I feel like there's plenty of times. It's like the more I think about it, the more we get small isolated cases. Cham Syndulla on Ryloth. It's like I feel like
been like focused on.
Yeah, more than just, hey, we're doing guerrilla. It's just like, hey, these guys over here on this planet need our help. We can't afford to dispatch an entire fleet. We're gonna send like a small group of Jedi over to assist in planning and leading.
3 Jedi and 17 angsty teenagers.
Yeah, and one clone commando squad. Give them a clone commando squad. Yeah. See, that would have, if I could get any arc out of the Clone Wars, Clone Wars Season 8, we're going back to anywhere in the timeline, drop a pair of Jedi, like a master and apprentice or something, and a squad of commandos into a planet, and their job is not to train a militia like they did on Onderon, but it's merely, hey, we already got these guys, we're just here to help. And you just watch them murder other people that aren't droids for like 4 episodes. That'd be fun. Yep. My opinion on commandos is just that I want to see more of them. To go back to the original topic.
I'm in agreement.
I do want to see more of them. I'm just looking up something very quickly before I continue to expand on my thoughts.
All right. Well, I'm gonna side table to give you time. I feel like though that the Bad Batch almost nullifies the Commandos a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like because they're the Commandos, but they're like the clone commandos. It's like
Yeah.
okay, well, cool, I guess. You know,
Yeah,
yeah.
I found what I was looking for.
Oh, that's my side tangent to buy the time.
Uh, but like my thing is that these guys are all clones. Once you mutate the strand, because like clone commandos are in fact enhanced clones. But once you mutate the strand once, you can keep replicating that same strand. So why aren't all the clones commandos?
I think it's because very specifically they stated within, what was it, season 2 was Camino? Was
Mhm.
the Camino arc? That Jango Fett's DNA was deteriorating. And I feel like if you wanted to alter it even further, it would cause further deterioration. So commandos were
No.
rare things.
What
Yeah, but you only need to
That-
alter it once is the thing.
I think, my implication from that arc was always that their source from Jango Fett himself was deteriorating.
Yeah, like the
I'm not.
original DNA sample was deteriorating. The clone.
Why do they need that? They can just hook up Joe Schmo to the machine, clone number 69, and start. And
I mean, I'd imagine it's a matter of like mutation, right? Because like once the person's cloned, their DNA can do whatever the fuck it wants. So you're effectively, as long as they have that original, they don't need to worry about accidentally doing an evolution.
could they not have developed? Could they not have taken one from like the embryos where like next to no mutation happened? Because obviously through this
I don't know.
method, mutation didn't. Like that's inevitable. You're gonna have some slight variation. You had some slight variation anyways, and the fact that all the clones didn't act the same. I'd wager that part of that is just that as they developed, they didn't develop exactly the same. That's going to be inevitable. Why didn't you just strap Hunter up to the damn machine though, and fucking clone him 80,000 times, dude? The Republic.
I think that was the point.
well,
They were
to make. Go ahead.
It's like there were, in fact, if I recall correctly, more than 5 test tubes, more than 6 test tubes in Nalisay's laboratory. I think the point was to just keep making more of the batch.
Yeah, well, they didn't do a good job at it. Obviously, that's
Clearly not.
That's the final season of
But
of Bad Batch.
Getting back to my general point, it's I feel like they should be more represented on screen because there should be far more of them. Because it's a simple change to the DNA to make them just slightly better, just generically. And realistically, it's such a. Once you make that modification once, you really don't need to make it again, and just so all the clones should be commandos in terms of at least genetics.
My opinion on the fact, or like my ideas, I guess for lack of a better term, theory, is that cloning a clone is, to take a really weird comparison, cloning a clone is like incest. The further down you go, first of all, the further from the original you're going to get, and the more deteriorated and, just for lack of a better term, wrong your output is going to be. So if you wanted to clone someone like Hunter or a commando, that the original DNA that was already a deteriorating sample, a sample that was getting fucked with, you take that, you clone that into a commando, which is further altered than your standard clone trooper. standard clone trooper isn't going to have that much alteration within the genome, and then you keep cloning that doubly altered genome, the output is just going to be wrong a lot of the time, or it's not going to be correct.
It wouldn't be that wrong, though. That's the thing, is that
well, we don't know how weird clone generations can get.
You take you take one of the commandos, and the commandos were some of the earliest developed because there were squads and squads of them ready to be deployed at Geonosis. Attack of the Clones tells us that.
The Republic Commando tells us that.
Well, there are commandos mentioned in Attack of the Clones.
That is true.
So they're some of the earliest. Their DNA was pulled from when Jango Fett was still alive, before he deteriorated.
Or he deteriorated.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think getting your head chopped off is deteriorating.
So, they could have pulled one of the commandos and just had him stay on Kamino to continually give DNA in whatever way they had him do it. And honestly, that'd probably be for the better that he's a commando that already has those alterations made. Or they should have just hired Boba Fett, man. They really should have. They should have just, hey kid, we will give you the most fucking absurd amount of money you've ever seen if you just let us take some blood every once in a while. You know,
you really don't know what goes into the cloning process. It's
yeah, we do in fact not entirely know.
So it could be like, hey, we need X amount of liters of blood, and you will be on your ass for months afterwards, or we just need a tiny little sample. We don't know
Sonata.
what exactly is necessary for cloning within Star Wars.
Yes.
Okay, you are here. You've been muted for like half an hour.
Yeah, sorry, I had to deal with a thing and then come back.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't sitting here trying to talk and you were muted like the entire time. Because I've had people do that. So I just figured I'd check in. This is your wellness check.
I'm still alive.
We do those for him?
I'm surprised too, to be honest. I'm surprised
yeah.
he just didn't let me die.
It was tempting.
Yeah, that's my thoughts, is that like you could only have a sample last for so long, and creation based off of the sample that's been altered is gonna last even less, and then the further down the train it goes.
Yeah, that is fair.
The cloning process is not detailed much, I think, on purpose. Because the last time they tried to explain some stuff away with sciencey stuff, it backfired on them.
Well, to be fair, I can wager that George Lucas probably did not know much about cloning.
I think we get a little bit of it maybe with Grogu, and how much the attempted cloning process from him took out of him.
Yeah, but that's different, because they're not trying to clone him. They're trying to transplant his essentially genetic ability to harness the Force into somebody else. Dude, if you haven't watched The Mandalorian at this point, go fuck yourself. I mean,
correct, but also violent.
More me just talking about it, spoilers. That was really harsh.
That was aggressive. There's some venom behind that.
Look, man, I've seen most of the shit now. You don't need to get mad at me anymore.
They talked about this back in like season 2, didn't they?
Of Clone Wars?
No, of Mando. Grogu
Oh.
and the cloning. Shit is like 3 years ago. 2 years ago.
Also, parts of season 1 as well. Not as many, but a few parts.
They did confirm that all they needed was a blood sample in because that's what Dr. Pershing was doing.
How big is the blood sample, though?
It seemed to be just a normal human-sized blood sample, which is a little concerning for
Coming from a child
coming
the
from
size
something
that
that
Grogu
small.
is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, I blame Marin.
Why?
I don't know.
I
felt like
too
it
blame
was funny.
Marin.
Okay, well, you can blame me for continuing to segue.
Mhm.
How long
I
have we been
can't.
going? Just so I can
120.
keep 120. Okay. How long do we want this episode to be?
4.
No.
124? Okay, yeah, we can keep going for
Mhm.
another 4 minutes.
It's actually another 3 now.
Oh,
Oh.
is my well, I was gonna ask just the general question. What are your thoughts on the show The Clone Wars as a whole? In its entirety, good, bad, whatever. What is your consensus on it?
Overall, putting in all of the episodes together, all of the arcs, all of the effort, solid 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, that's about where I'd put it. There are definitely some instances where it suffers from being a kids show. But there are also times where it benefits from being a kids show. So it's not perfect. Nothing ever will be. 8.5 is, I think, a fair rating. Well put together, well designed. Is absolutely beautiful with budget, but it's got filler arcs. It's got unfun arcs. It's got questionable decisions with character creation.
Hmm. What about you, Juicy Juster Man?
You see,
Um, uh, if we're putting it on the number scale, I got like a 7 out of 10, maybe 6.75, because of the fact that I have to weed through like half the episodes to find the good episodes. When I compiled the list of episodes that I personally would recommend for people to watch, I cut out probably 65% of the show. And I think when I find myself not recommending, even for the first time, 65% of a show, it really hampers it. But the episodes that I do enjoy, I enjoy. They're really good. It's just a lot of them I don't, so that's why it's like such a weird rating place. Where the good episodes do outweigh the bad, so it's over a 5 out of 10, like middle of the road. But the show is harmed in my eyes by the fact that I'm like, yeah, there's over half of the show that I don't even think you need to watch when I'm kind of explaining to somebody the episodes that I like. So that's my position on it.
what about you, Marin?
I quite enjoy the Clone Wars. If I had to
I
put it on a
wonder
number
why.
scale, I think I'd put it at 8 out of 10. I'm still talking about it. Shush. The Clone Wars do introduce what I find to be the most fascinating aspect of Star Wars, and that is clone troopers as a whole. And it focuses on them. It doesn't really introduce them, but it focuses on them. It brings them into the spotlight, and that's on its own. To find a concept that's so intriguing to me, that really kind of bumps the show up a couple of numbers. And yeah, there are some rough episodes. Excuse me, my goodness. There are some real rough ones. There are some, I mean, the majority of season 5 I do not like at all, even though it has some really juicer arcs as well. Um, there's a lot that about the Clone Wars that I just is like very meh, but there's so much of it in the places that is good that I just like latch onto that, and I'm just like, yes, this is Star Wars. This was the Star Wars that I grew up with, even though I watched all of them, all of it. But I just love it. It makes me happy. I love the show. It gives me joy. Um, but yeah. All right. The dreaded question for the man that just left again. Fuck.
I'm here.
You are here. I wanted to ask everybody, since we're talking about the Clone Wars, just so I can be in a little bit of joy as I watch you writhe in your seat, Sonata. Favorite clone trooper? Has to be a named clone trooper.
Favorite clone trooper, eh?
Yes.
What's the name of that one clone trooper that betrayed the Republic?
Slick.
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 That's actually an understandable choice, though. I love Slick. He's cool.
Yeah, it's not every day you get to see property go against its owners, but when you do, it's entertaining.
Okay. After everybody answers this question, I'm actually going to focus on that as a talking point. Donovan, who's your favorite clone trooper? Go.
Is Soup Clone considered named?
No, he does not have a canon name. He does not have any speaking lines.
Damn. Then I revert to my normal answer of basic bitch Rex. And or fives.
What about you, Justice?
Oh no. Gregor was pretty chill before he got a head injury and went insane.
He's so silly goofy, though. Gregor's cool, though. I like Gregor.
Echo was pretty alright before he got blown up. Afterwards, he's kind of just, yeah.
He's kind of just a guy afterwards.
Designated babysitter and impulse control of the Bad Batch.
Yeah. Captain Rex is a fair pick, though. Rex is
yeah.
always fun and basic.
He is a good character, though.
He's a good soldier. Actually, he's a bad soldier. He didn't follow orders.
He does not follow orders.
He tried.
Did he try?
Well, he did.
He cried.
I think he got his head.
That is true.
He got his head bonked.
He did. He got bonked.
Bonk.
Yeah, I feel like I just picked Gregor, though. That's the easiest. My answer will change
That's
tomorrow.
fair. And that's a good answer. I like Gregor. He's awesome. My favorite...
Gregor who?
Gregor? I hardly know her.
Oh. My favorite clone trooper is either Commander Wolf or Commander Fox. I love both of them. Wolf is just a cool guy. And I'm glad that Dave Filoni likes him because I like him too. And I just like to think about the implications of Fox being a clone trooper and like being forced to hunt down fives or whatever, and kind of really the Coruscant Guard in general. I like to think about the further implications of the stuff that they had to do for Palpatine. I like to think about that a lot. I like to think about my boys. I love the.
I like that
the
time
Corey Guard.
when Vader killed Commander Fox.
Yeah, Vader did kill Fox. Rip to my man. Rip to a G though. But yeah, Sonata, I'm gonna rag on you for a bit because your main bit whenever talking about clones is how clones are pieces of property. according to the Republic and according to, really, I would like to say, probably the majority of the people who aren't actively involved in the war and aren't actually like seeing anything going on. That the clones are just these robotic pieces of property that really aren't any better than droids. What do we think about that and like the further politics of the galaxy and kind of, you know, that in general? I don't know how else to.
Did Sonata answer the favorite clone question?
Slick.
Oh, right. Sorry, it's. I was sitting there trying to remember.
While you discuss this, I will be right back.
Wow, asks a question, doesn't even stick around to answer.
We're talking about politics? Politics in my Star Wars?
Oh, I'm not brave enough for politics.
Guys, we can't have politics in my Star Wars.
Politics in Star Wars? Certainly not in the fucking the words.
Certainly not in the name.
Media that's openly denouncing the Vietnam War while watching a poor farm boy suffer the horrors of war from afar before he goes and fights an evil empire led by Richard Nixon. Or was that Reagan? I can't remember.
I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah, I think it was both.
I don't know where I could have possibly come up with that very specific example from.
You're telling me that this franchise is political? After reading the opening crawl to The Phantom Menace, you want to tell me it's political? No.
Get out of here.
I love that we have not talked about Marin's come back and we've not talked about the actual topic yet.
Great, cool. Sonata, I just want to know, really, I just want to pick your brain and ask, like, why are you so vehemently against the clones? Is it just a bit against me, or is it actually, like, something that you have thought about?
So, it's a combination of the two. Part of it is absolutely a bit against you. But the other part is just simply, at the end of the day, the clones were just tools that in the end were just discarded, as were the droids on the Separatist side. And that's something that the franchise has started to kind of explore a little bit, with little bits and pieces, the Bad Batch, a brief cameo appearance / mention, and Kenobi. It's 99% a joke, but the other 1% is like, I'm not wrong. That is how they are viewed in the universe for pretty much the entirety of them being relevant, is that they're just things fighting for us so that our own people don't have to.
Yeah. I guess it's just because we only ever really see the clones from the perspective of the Jedi or from the perspective of other clones. I would love to see clones from the perspective of a droid or someone fighting against them, like an Marin, or just straight up a person watching on the sidelines.
I want to see the clones as a faceless, intimidating, occupying force. Just show how from the outside, how similar they are to stormtroopers.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say, is that they, to a non war combatant, or I guess to a non-Republic military member who actually interacts with them directly, whether it's Jedi or some other form of military leader, that's what they are. It's just stormtroopers. They're just, and think about the way they just indiscriminately blast through stormtroopers in the original trilogy, and if you really think about just how fucked up that is, the fact that there are plenty of people, every person behind that bucket is somebody who has thoughts and feelings and emotions, and they have a reason to be there. Whether it's just falling to propaganda or what, but so to think that, like, to somebody else, they see the clones the same way that Han Solo and Luke and Leia, just see the stormtroopers as they're running through the Death Star, is certainly a perspective that I feel like I'd like to see explored. And I'd imagine that the reason they probably did it that way, though, is because, in a way, you're given the humanizing perspective when they're the good guys. And it's from there. You don't want to see the stormtroopers as anything other than faceless, because the instant you do, then the kind of impact of, like, what Luke did by blowing up the Death Star is so much more morally questionable.
Yep.
So, but I do think it's an interesting perspective that Star Wars should explore sometime.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I think Bad Batch has done that somewhat. Not to the greatest effect, but the fact that they don't entirely see the clones as enemies, and they understand what's going on there, and to the point where, if they can, they try and stun them out most of the time, or they use the gun of a separatist tank to shoot down a gunshot. But yeah, I think I'd like to see Star Wars explore that.
I would love to do that as well. I would love to see that as well. You get bits and pieces of it throughout some novels. Maybe I haven't done a lot of research into any comics, but maybe some comics, and you see just the slightest bit with Finn, and then they never touch on it ever again after they mention that he's a stormtrooper, or that he was a stormtrooper. They never really talk about it again. But the prime example that I'm thinking of whenever it comes to, like, humanizing stormtroopers is Commander Kimmond in the second in Thrawn Alliances. That's what I'm thinking of. But yeah, other than that, you don't really see it, and it's because, like Justice said, they're the bad guys, and that would be cool to see them explore. Kind of on that, I would love to see literally anything from the perspective of the B1s. I want a show about the B1s. I love the B1 battle droids. I love my creative thinkers.
Independent thinkers.
Sorry,
Roger,
I love
Roger.
myself some
Roger.
independent
Roger,
thinkers. Roger. I love the B1s. I love how silly they are, and kind of continuing even on into the B2s. They still have some goofy in them.
They mostly de-goofified the B2s, unfortunately, because
yeah,
they were
some...
they were meant to be actually threatening.
Yeah.
yeah, at least
give-
in Go ahead, Justice.
I was gonna say, you don't give the B2s high-pitched voices if you're intending them to be threatening, because they originally had high-pitched voices, and then the Clone Wars changed that.
Yep. But at least we got some. At least we got some comedy out of B2s in Survivor, as well as the first few episodes of Clone Wars that featured them.
I always forget Survivor exists.
Because
It does in fact exist.
you don't play
That
video
must have been
games
such
because
a
you're
good
bad
game.
at them.
But yeah, I love the droids. I love how scary the droidicas used to be. Droidicas used to be really scary. Then I don't know. They're still intimidating. They're just, I don't find them to be as scary as other droids, or as scary as some of the other things that we've seen within Star Wars, the Clone War.
Are the Clone Wars wars?
Yeah. Does anybody have anything that they're like dying to talk about the Clone Wars that we haven't brought up yet? Like something that's just been itching.
I don't think so. I think we've nailed the hammer on the head.
There's one thing I do want to bring up.
All right.
So we get one episode featuring it in the Clone Wars, and then we get another episode that features the same environment in Bad Batch. I've always just found it interesting how the Kaminoans trained them. Like that whole simulation deal.
Just like the simulations.
Correct. A part of me's just always wondered, like, is that, like, did that become standard for militaries after that point, or was it standard before that point, or was that something the Kaminoans just invented for training people, and for whatever reason other militaries didn't adopt it? Because I don't believe anything. Well, actually, didn't the Empire have like something similar to it in Rebels?
They had the box, which wasn't as complex, but they were also training like stormtrooper cadets at the time. And it was a merger of essentially the Kaminoan stuff and then the actual box on Sereno. Yeah.
So it does answer my question a bit. Like later on, some militaries began to adapt that technology and that method into training their own militaries. But it was just like, I found that interesting. I liked to see how the clones were trained and how they were basically, how it was drilled into them how important teamwork was on the battlefield.
I'd wager anytime you had a grand army or a large planetary army, they utilized something similar to that, because that's not like crazy intense technology that simulatory.
It's not like they invented a holodeck for it.
Yeah. I'd imagine there are plenty of cases where your training's a lot more Onderon-esque, where, you know, you just have a few guys out in the field teaching people how to shoot shit, but the really well put together planetary militaries and whatnot, and, you know, times way deep in the past where you had other grand armies of the Republic would have probably utilized the same thing, I imagine, because I would say it's interesting that Count Dooku and the Kaminoans would think up with the same thing, but then they were like constantly in league with each other, so that point's kind of out the window. The Jedi used something vaguely similar in Jedi Fallen Order when you're parkouring up all the boxes, but that's more related to the Rebels box than.
Well, maybe that's where like Dooku partially got the idea, because I mean it was Moralo evolves, but I feel like Dooku probably had some say in it.
Yeah, well, it was on his planet, so I'd hope he had some say in it.
That might have been just like kind of. Maybe stuff like that was just standard galaxy-wide, and it's kind of like assumed like this is just how you train soldiers.
Oh, my final thing. I feel like the Clone Wars tried to make Obi-Wan so much less of a dick than he was in the movies. Obi-Wan seemed kind of like there were times where there are some things Obi-Wan says where it's like, I can tell that I think this is a guy who grew up in an emotionally stunted temple, and he doesn't know how to like interact with Anakin properly. There's some times where he's kind of. You can see why a 19-year-old would take something so harsh, and it's not necessarily that Obi-Wan's actually a dick. In the same way that a lot of the times it's not like Mace Windu's actually a dick, but you can. It's not as if they're exactly very good at speaking with a emotionally stunted 19-year-old. And I feel like the Clone Wars kind of tries to shift away from it. And then there are times where you really question why Obi-Wan did what he did, like the box arc, when he's like, "Oh yeah, it was my idea for the council to keep it from me," and you're just like, "What the fuck, man?" No, no wonder he's like mad all the time and doesn't trust anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any concluding thought? Nobody? No takers?
No
Sorry,
takers,
no
only
thoughts head
givers.
empty.
Okay. Then my final point that I want to bring up, because it's a coming soon, and who's arguably the main character of the Clone Wars. Let's talk a little bit
Great
about...
Admiral Thrawn?
Yeah, let's talk about the blueberry. I love it whenever he shows up.
Hey, you don't remember him in the corner in the one scene? You have to turn your brightness up to
Standing
like
there like fucking
200%.
death in Puss in Boots.
Obviously, he's played by George Lucas.
He's playing.
Correct.
Yeah, in the animated show.
Exactly.
He's played
The
by
real
John
Thrawn.
Favreau.
Spit out my water.
Actually, the real way to see Thrawn is to turn your brightness on your monitor all the way down. In fact, turn it off and just look at the reflection.
Genius.
Damn, that's what he looks like?
I know, he's still fat, isn't he?
I was, they should have cast somebody better for it.
Oh my god.
Anyway, yes. I believe you were about to lead us into an Ahsoka discussion.
Yeah, I want to talk about Ahsoka Tano. Just so we can...
Well,
Um,
I
Just Ahsoka
don't.
in the Clone Wars.
Okay. I was about to say, you might be getting a little ahead of yourself. I think that's next
Yeah,
week.
no, I just wanna, this is a quick segue into next episode. General thoughts on Ahsoka within the Clone Wars show itself.
The
boy.
silence
Wow,
is
very
deafening.
riveting conversation.
His small child is very much she's clearly supposed to be like an audience insert
Mhm.
that evolved into a character after being an audience insert.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, she's a bit annoying at first, like the Star Wars audience.
Exactly. You get me.
Yeah, except for we don't stop being annoying.
Yeah,
Now, being annoying is our main personality
That's-
trait. We can't get rid
yeah.
of that.
We're called
You-
the fandom menace.
I-
There's a reason for that.
I think by main Sonata you mean only.
Correct.
you know,
Uh.
she starts and becomes an actual character and becomes way less annoying. And is actually a pretty enjoyable character by the end. She does not start out as an enjoyable character, though.
Yeah, I'm not alone in thinking that when the series started, she was my least favorite character, and by the time it ended, she was my favorite character.
Yeah.
And that's not something that I can say for a whole lot of media.
Yeah, I love Ahsoka's arc throughout the Clone Wars, watching her mature as this bratty, annoying 14-year-old to a 17-year-old who has been in a war for 4 years and who has grown up way too fast and is very reserved and quiet and sad about it. I feel like you can kind of feel Ahsoka's grief in her final arc, even through some of the Martez sister shenaniganery.
Yeah. Started.
How
Yeah, that starts as grief for for the family she lost, and then grief for holy shit, everyone fucking died.
The family that she actually truly lost now. They're not just forbidden
That's for
to
the
interact
dead family,
with.
as opposed
Yeah.
to cannot interact.
Yeah. I mean, Ahsoka. God, I love Ahsoka. I just love Ahsoka. And her evolution throughout the show is you get to see the consequences of what being a child soldier does to a person. At least partially, with some of just like there is emotional turmoil that Ahsoka has that she masks almost as apathy, kind of like the Jedi do. But
See his
uh,
death?
I was holding back from that, but yes, apathy is death.
apathy is death. But
Apathy
Ahsoka
is
kind
death.
of she masks her grief and sadness, and even some of her more excited emotions, like whenever she sees Anakin again, even that's kind of muted, just because of how tainted their relationship has become because of what the Jedi did to her.
And Anakin, what I think is interesting about that scene too is that Anakin can't hide it as well. He's like genuinely disappointed that she's like, she definitely is putting the issue first and talking to Anakin later, because liberating Mandalore is more important than having a chat with your best friend. Um, and I think Ahsoka is kind of this interesting, like, maybe a bit of a foil to Anakin. You can see the qualities that she does inherit. She inherits some from Obi-Wan as well, that
Oh,
are,
yeah.
passed down that genealogy. And so it's kind of interesting to see how, like, two other characters influence her and bring her into her own at the same time. It was just really fun.
Yep. She's a cool galley, and I can't wait to see more of her in August.
Yep. 1 month.
1 month until we see what they're going to do with Grand Admiral Thrawn
Yeah.
and Ezra and all that jazz in live action.
Blue Elon Musk. He is coming.
Yep.
First he took Twitter, now he takes Star Wars.
Oh no.
Oh, Sonata. It's X now, actually. It's not Twitter anymore.
Yeah, it's X.
Yeah.
Oh, the not safe for work information I have on that. Oh, it's good.
No, there's only one of them, not three.
He's talking about all of the. No, I'm not gonna make that joke. Is there anything else we want to talk about?
Anything else that we want to talk about? I'm Clone Ward out.
Yeah.
Are you though? I'm done.
Mr.
Sonata, do you have any
Sonata.
final words?
Clone Wars good for the most part.
Yeah. Clone Wars good for the most part, indeed. Well,
Oh.
I enjoyed leading this conversation. Hopefully, I did it better.
You did better than last time.
We did
Yay.
kind of foist it on you last time, and then relentlessly make fun of you for not expecting it.
We also foisted it
Yeah.
on you this time.
Yeah.
But at least there was warning before we started recording.
Yeah, at least we
Yeah.
discussed it before we started recording.
I want to see how well Marin can handle improv or something last. I don't know. I don't remember my thought process,
Yeah,
so I
sure, big
apologize.
Anyways, this has been the Hyperdrive Hour. My name is Marin. Sick Dr. Art on all socials.
Bye, Marin.
Bye.
Sorry.
Bye, Marin.
It's been real, but it's actually been justice. So, cheers.
Be Real went off earlier today, Justice.
Yeah, I know. Is it like noon
it
my
has
time?
been real, is what he said.
Yeah. Shut
That
up
is what I
and
believe
say
he said.
goodbye, guys. Come on now.
Bye bye.
Bye.